to deliver the White House. It will not be easy, but guess what? She's of Jamaican stock, so if anybody can do it, she can. And with the support around her, we wish Kamala Harris all the very best. And we know that when Jamaicans are at their best, we're better than everybody else in the world. Unashamedly so, I can declare. I want to say thanks to Doctors Sharif and Chin this evening, and thanks to you out there for watching. I turn over to Curlin and Stephen. They have the news coming up in short order.
Saving for your golden years with a Sagicor Lifestyle Approved Retirement Scheme. The time by Sagicor Life is
7 o'clock.
No more fear of missing out. CVM TV News is on YouTube. Get up-to-date news, sports, and business content at CVM TV News anytime, anywhere. Subscribe now to CVM TV News to see it happen.
CVM News at 7 calls for review of Jamaica's disaster response framework. Jamaicans unhappy with JPS's estimated bill statement and the ongoing fallout of the global tech outage.
Also this evening, major crimes down by 32% in St. Elizabeth. In the business report, Dr. Hyginus Leon, no longer president of CDB. And in sports, hammer thrower Nayoka Clunis's Olympic appeal falls short. From Kingston, Jamaica, this is CVM News at 7. I'm Stephen McHugh.
And I'm Curlin Brown. It's Monday, July 22, 2024. Thanks as usual for joining us. The People's National Party is criticizing the local government's response to Hurricane Beryl, claiming resources for rebuilding have been inadequate.
Mayor of Spanish Town Norman Scott and other party officials say councillors are struggling without proper support. Ramon Gordon reports.
The People's National Party has launched a broadside post-Beryl, criticizing the local government's response to the crisis. The PNP's latest critique centers councillor resources, which the opposition says fall short of what's required for rebuilding. In a release early Monday, Spanish Town Mayor and President of the National Caucus of PNP Councillors, Norman Scott, contended his colleague councillors have been left struggling to support their community following the event. The local government minister recently convened a meeting of mayors, but Scott claims the ministry failed to outline a plan for essential resource allocation, urging the group instead to use funds from the government's Special Grant for Repairs SGR. But speaking with CVM News early Monday, Mayor Scott says that request is untenable.
The fund from the SGR cannot be used for other purposes, such as making available building materials, making available care packages. It can't be used for those.
Scott isn't the only voice in the PNP ranks who claims that the provisions at the local government level have been insufficient.
We have seen where members of parliament would have received in total between $13 to $15 million to respond to the effect of Hurricane Beryl. Councillors, likewise the MPs, also have a responsibility to the people of their respective divisions. I am concerned that as an elected person, a second-tier government, that the Ministry of Local Government and our Minister Desmond McKenzie has failed to make available monies to the municipal corporations to respond to the needs of the people in our respective divisions.
CVM News contacted the local government minister for comment on Monday, but numerous calls to his phone went unanswered.
The minister now needs to clearly make available funding for the purposes of giving building materials and making care packages for the constituents and the citizens.
Meanwhile, on Sunday, Patrick Peterkin, the MP caretaker for St. Andrew East Rural, made a plea to the island's utility provider for relief for his constituents, who have been without power since July 3. Several communities are still without electricity following Hurricane Beryl, with reports of isolated protests in hard-hit areas. Energy Minister Darrell Vaz, at a post-cabinet media briefing last week, revealed that the island had secured regional assistance for the energy recovery efforts. For now, recovery on the ground continues. Ramon Gordon for CVM News.
And the People's National Party is calling for a review of Jamaica's disaster response framework, even while utility restoration efforts are underway. Opposition leader Mark Golding told supporters at the weekend there is need for greater emphasis on building the nation's resilience. Here's more from Courtney Lewis.
As utility providers grapple with the aftermath of Hurricane Beryl and damage to crucial equipment, the People's National Party is now being critical of the nation's electricity infrastructure. While speaking at a party meeting in East Central St. Catherine, opposition leader Mark Golding says greater attention must be placed on the nation's disaster resilience framework.
We have seen the aftermath of the hurricane, and it's clear that Jamaica has some lessons to be learned. It is a wake-up call. You know, the way in which the electricity distribution system has been so badly impacted and the time it is taking to respond to it and to set it right indicates that we need to approach the restoration of the electricity distribution system with very much in mind the need to make it more resilient.
He says water supply being dependent on a singular electricity provider is inconvenient for residents and is cause for implementation of alternative energy sources.
Can we solarize some of those pumping stations so that they're independently powered and, can not be dependent on the electricity grid being functional? What about backup generators? These are the kind of decisions that Jamaica has to make coming out of this hurricane.
Golding added another area of concern for the government should be the welfare of the people. He maintains many individuals remain vulnerable as their homes and livelihoods have been badly affected by the hurricane, and there is no basis for people to be denied access to relief aid.
We need to see a program of assistance and support being rolled out to the people who need it right away. It can't be something that is talked about but not actualized. And the people on the ground hear that it's coming, but they're not seeing any action over it. So I use this opportunity to say to Jamaica and to the government, let us see the actual distribution of assistance to the needy people as quickly as possible, starting right away. We want to see it now.
Courtney Lewis for CVM News.
Still in the dark, that's the sad reality for many Jamaicans this evening, including some in Southeast Clarendon. Energy and Technology Minister Darrell Vaz visited the constituency to see how the restoration has been progressing. Adrian Williams reports.
Minister of Energy and Technology Darrell Vaz toured sections of the island to assess the damage. Residents in sections of Southeast Clarendon were still without light or water, so this week, the visit aimed at observing the restoration taking place in the area.
Basically, what I'm trying to do is to make sure that the schedules that I'm being given from JPS are realistic. So I want to be underground to see for myself so that when I get these schedules, I can know whether or not they are accurate or not accurate. Because what I don't want is for JPS to be giving schedules and giving people a false sense of hope.
As the country moves into its third week post-hurricane, the minister responded to concerns that the power company's efforts were being behind the schedule.
I can't say that specifically until I get the final report for Cabinet tomorrow, but what I do know is that the JPS are working tirelessly, but at the same time, the people are tired and they want to get their lives back on track.
As JPS teams work to restore electricity in the constituency, the absence of water remains a blight for locals.
I understand that there's an issue with the NWC pump, which a generator was sought, and they're having issues with the generator. So I've been assured by the JPS that that pump will also be restored by Tuesday latest. So once again, work is taking place on the ground, and obviously it is good to be here to see that, to make sure that the realities of the schedules that I've been given are realistic.
The work continues, but when can citizens expect their lives to get back on track with their utilities?
JPS has it for the first week of August, but I will know more when I get today's report, which will cover last week. So I get a 3-day report and then I get a summary at the end of the week. So I'll communicate that to Jamaica in short order.
The minister's tour continues in sections of Manchester and St. Elizabeth, parishes deemed worst hit. Adrian Williams for CVM News.
Now, for the first time since Mark Golding assumed the role of PNP president in 2020, he has surpassed the leader of the Jamaica Labour Party, Andrew Holness. A recent Don Anderson poll commissioned by the PNP shows Golding has a favourability rating of 35.2% compared to Holness's 33.8%. Golding has a 26.2% negative rating, while Holness has a 37%. The previous Don Anderson poll in April saw Holness leading by 3 percentage points. Now the PNP is now 7 percentage points above the JLP. The PNP, according to the poll, is at 34.3%, while the JLP is at 27%. 19.8% of the respondents were unsure. Of course, CVM News will have more on the polls in subsequent newscasts.
Spared again, local tech expert Trevor Forrest says the latest tech crash did not have as severe an impact on Jamaica as it did the rest of the world. However, days on, he says the biggest takeaway is the need to build resilience and effect swift recovery from a crisis that hit millions of systems globally. Nika Lewis has more.
It's been over 4 days since the much-dreaded crash impacted well over 8 million devices. And though locally some sectors ground to a halt, others appeared resilient. CEO of 876 Technology Solutions tech expert Trevor Forrest says again Jamaica was spared the worst of the crash.
Interestingly enough, I did hear that some institutions were impacted. The impact wasn't as broadly felt here as you would have heard globally. And that's perhaps because CrowdStrike's platform and solution is not something that is heavily used here as yet. So kind of dodged a bullet. Most entities dodged a bullet there. But it's not to say that, the platforms that we use here are not susceptible to a similar kind of thing.
But there are lessons to be learned from the digital crisis that will cripple several global companies and sectors for some time. Despite a fix by the company at the heart of the historic crash, CrowdStrike, and an ensuing apology, Jamaicans are urged to plan recovery strategies.
What it boils down to is not whether or not these kinds of things will happen. And it's not really isolated to the Microsofts or the CrowdStrikes. This just can happen. But how quickly you can get back to normal after it has happened. So I think that's the major takeaway for businesses to ensure that when these kinds of things occur, that you have the necessary things in place to get you back online quickly.
Meanwhile, although Jamaica was not severely hampered, Forrest notes preparation is key as the world inches closer to a fully digital society. When asked whether the Jamaican society is equipped to deal with another such crash that could impact a larger group globally, he says not quite.
It's a difficult question to answer, but I would say that there are some entities that are relatively well prepared for this sort of stuff, but I would say the majority may not be. And the reason for that is a lack of investment or funding money to invest in what is required, because it is a huge investment to get to a point where the resiliency, the redundancy, and the recovery is where it needs to be.
Up to Monday, the Washington Post reported Delta Airlines canceled more than 600 flights as the fallout from the global tech outage extended into a fourth day.
Bloomberg reported that Tesla's CEO Elon Musk deleted CrowdStrike following the world-rattling incident. Nika Lewis, CVM News.
To this item of breaking news now. CVM News understands a police officer was disarmed and killed by a prisoner at the Halfway Tree Police lockup in capital Kingston. The prisoner then committed suicide. Of course, this is a developing story, and we'll have more details for you as soon as possible. Do stay with us for more to come from CVM News at 7 in a moment.
Is the Aedes aegypti mosquito that spreads the Zika, chikungunya, and dengue viruses. Search for its breeding sites and destroy them. This is the Aedes aegypti mosquito that spreads the Zika, chikungunya, and dengue viruses. Protect yourself from the bite of this mosquito.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
It's the Quartz Appliance event! Cook it, chill it, wash it, get it at Quartz! Cook it on a stove starting at $35,999. Chill it in a fridge starting at $76,999. Wash it in a washer starting at $140,999. Or prep it with a small appliance up to 50% off. Plus, free gifts with select major appliance purchases. Get it now and pay later! It's the Quartz Appliance event! Quartz, bringing value home. Offers end July 31. Conditions apply.
The Bureau of Standards Jamaica is your conformance testing partner with over 54 years of serving Jamaican businesses. Our world-class lab testing services ensure the safety of your food and commodities that you take to market. We are positioned as a business enabler, driving business development, competitiveness, trade, and ensuring consumer safety. We have 5 times the capacity to test over other local labs, plus 10 labs with accredited tests and calibration. We set the standard that promotes safety to consumers in a number of industries, including food processing, agriculture, and construction, having tested over 57,000 products on average annually and growing.
Hi, my name is Welton Gooden, and I'm the Executive Director of the Bureau of Standards. Let us take your products from lab to market.
Welcome back. A study in depression on the Jamaica Constabulary Force has left one researcher calling for assistance for the ailing members. Trisha Gay Kelly has been tracking this story.
What we found fascinating, though, when we actually disaggregated the data, was that a number of persons who are in the general area of policing were the ones who were most depressed.
That's a sign of trouble, as described by researcher Dr. Paul Bourne, who recently conducted a study on depression within the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF. His study found that majority of the police force battles with depression, some at a critical stage. Dr. Bourne says it's not safe for these JCF members to interact with the public with a weapon at that stage.
If it is that you are talking about an officer who is clinically depressed, highly depressed, and he or she has a gun, then that's a dangerous police officer to be on the road. So we are saying mandatory every quarter in terms of police officers being assessed in terms of their level of depression. And when the results are in, we determine where an officer is placed.
And though the research also states that women in the force are at twice the risk of being depressed, there is concern that male members may have challenges coping. As quantum transformational psychologist Dr. Liakim Samaj explains, they are also less likely to seek help.
Men have a very low health-seeking behavior. They don't seek help. And in the absence of not seeking help, there's all the issue of self-diagnosis and self-medication and inappropriate responses. Because I know of a number of actual situations where policemen have shared with me the kind of, let's call it destructive behaviors that they engage in so as to alleviate the stressor, alleviate the depression.
Dr. Bourne's advice is to give critically depressed members of the force a break from heavily tasked areas. As for those who are not as depressed but could reach that point, he suggests regular checkups.
One fundamental recommendation that we are actually purporting is that police officers go through mandatory assessment, possibly every quarter, to sort of see where they are. What we're trying to do now is to establish the level of depression among these officers, and we're saying if these officers are found to be highly depressed, we're saying take them off of frontline duty and do not give them a gun.
The battle for health is now on as JCF members fight not only to serve and protect others, but also themselves. Trisha Gay Kelly, CVM News.
Since the Jamaica Public Service issued a statement on its plans to send customers estimated bills this month, the public has been lashing out against the decision. Trisha Gay Kelly also sheds light on that issue in this follow-up.
The Jamaica Public Service, JPS, recently announced that it will be estimating customers' bills for the June to July period. But Jamaicans are adamant they will not be paying for a service they have not been receiving. JPS issued a statement recently telling customers that their bill for this month will be estimated since some operations have been disrupted following Hurricane Beryl. But Jamaicans are not taking this decision lightly.
No bill shouldn't send out. No bill, because it's disaster. People lose food and meat and stuff like that.
Me say about 3 times I see JPS come off me, I can read meter. All along, I estimate a bill. So if they sell an estimated bill to me now, it's no problem.
Others believe the monopoly is the issue, suggesting that the company has gotten complacent.
JPS have a competition, it wouldn't be like that. They do have a competition. That's why Solar put on them foot more. And either go cheaper or have a package where people can afford them.
And the next thing, 2024, you go anywhere else in a modern world, power line the underground. No time for JPS modernize, yeah, and put things underground so as breeze blow, them not complain about pole brought down and all these things.
This is a concern that has reached the ears of Energy Minister Daryl Vaz, who addressed the matter at the most recent post-cabinet briefing. Vaz says it is something his ministry is considering. However, the minister, like many Jamaicans, believe persons will be unfairly billed with these estimates.
Any estimated bill would have to be less than the previous actual bill. I think it is, in my mind, a bit insensitive in the way they communicated that, especially in light of the fact that they still have a lot of work to do to restore electricity across the island. And as we speak, there are thousands of persons that still do not have light.
He assured the public he will ensure that equity and justice are served. Minister Vaz has already spoken with the Office of Utilities Regulation, OUR, and will be meeting with JPS next week. Trisha Gay Kelly, CVM News.
Now, amidst the chaos caused by Hurricane Beryl, a remarkable story emerged from Sheffield in Westmoreland. Baby Anthony was born during the height of the hurricane. His birth is not just a personal milestone for his family, it also serves as a symbol of hope and resilience for the community. Andre Jebinson tells us more.
Meet baby Anthony. He was born Wednesday, July 3. Yes, the same day Beryl passed south of the island, causing much damage. But Anthony had a peculiar debut. His mother, Carleen Knight, was at home shut in because of the hurricane. She woke up to use the bathroom around 10 in the night. Because her clothes was wet, she assumed she had already gone on herself. Knight later realized she was actually in labor.
I don't know who I call ambulance, who I call police, but me I tell you everything active. So same time I said to Janice, you feel the baby, I come down, you know, I come down at the same time now, 5 minutes, when me said that 5 minutes the pain is, come back again. 5 minutes, me feel the baby in my vagina and in my bottom. At the same time, I said, baby, I said, Jenny is the baby then here. I said, rub my foot on me, I tell my son to fan because he heat and lick me.
Getting to the closest hospital seemed unlikely for two reasons. One, there was no telling what the state of the roadway was. And two, Anthony seemingly had grown impatient with being in the womb. her neighbor Izebo Dyer came to the rescue.
Izebo turn over baby like you were like, you know, yes, you must be what some sure so we can, you know, when they at the room or when the baby come out and then turn him back where if a boy or a girl.
By now, her children and neighbors had all gathered, each wanting to help but not sure what to do. The frenzied delivery had them in a panic.
As he come out in ball and start a shocking thing, so you must say, he hungry, so same time everybody will get panic and something. So Izebo said, no, it's not the time to get panic and something. Just relax. Just give me two receiver. Just give me two receiver. Same time now then give him two receiver and he said, give me one more. And then give him one more. Wrap up the baby.
The placenta remained inside night. Luckily, her neighbor had some knowledge about child's birth.
Then he start press down in my belly. Press down in my belly. So the card will cut off and everything piece hang out. So my son now we are 14. All on the card. So each time now when Tanis I press down in my belly. So each time Tanis press down in my belly, me push. So me I push for after birth.